Good evening. Call to order the June 26, 2017 meeting of the Arlington Redevelopment Board, reported by ACMI. Thanks everyone for showing up a little bit early tonight. Start off with a zoning recodification update. Laura.
I think you're all aware that on July 13th at 7 o'clock p.m. there's the first public meeting on the zoning recodification in which there will be a presentation by the consultant about the changes being proposed, and then sort of some background information about how we got to this point and what we're trying to do with the recodification, clarifying things and making them easier to understand, as opposed to it's not going to be major changes in the zoning at this time. Then there will be table exercises. We're talking about asking people to talk about what their experience with the zoning bylaw has been, what issues they've had with the zoning, what they think could make it more usable and user-friendly, and then sort of a wrap-up and some general feedback. We're sure that people are going to talk about things that they don't like about the zoning itself, and our plan is to kind of keep a running list of those issues, and after we've adopted an easier-to-use bylaw, we will start looking at substantive amendments to the bylaw. So we're hoping that the redevelopment board members can come to that meeting and sort of hear what people think about the zoning, because you are going to be having a public hearing in the fall on the new zoning bylaw.
Okay.
So again, it's Thursday, July 13th, and it's at the senior center
At 7 o'clock.
at 7 p.m.
Okay. Good. Anything else to update on that item? Okay. Can we wait till then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Moving on to the approval of meeting minutes from May 15th, June 12th, 2017. Start with you, Andy, for
I did not see anything. It looks good to me.
any other suggestions, changes, David, G, Kim?
Which one are we talking about?
May 15th.
Oh,
Nothing on May 15th.
no.
I didn't have any.
Motion to approve May 15th minutes as
And second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. June 12th. I didn't see anything in there.
I'm okay with those.
I wanted to add one thing. I think I mentioned that in the discussion of the zoning recodification, that the issues that the ARB is most directly concerned with, particularly the EDR process and criteria and those sections, are some of the gray areas as to whether it's policy or administrative. And I want to just make it clear that for phase one, the current phase of the recodification, that we are only addressing the administrative aspects and trying to steer clear of any gray policy issues.
Okay. I agree with that suggestion. Do you have a suggestion of where to put it in the minutes?
Yeah, I think in the right at the bottom of page one,
Okay.
there are a couple of sentences about what I said, and I just wanted to include that because I did say something
Okay.
along those lines at the meeting.
Do you want to send suggested language to Amy for revision?
I can do that unless.
Approve it.
Yeah.
I do
Okay.
have one comment on June 12th.
Mhm.
Also, on the second paragraph, I expressed concerns about the proximity of parking to Schuler Court. Also, I want to add in the relocation of the trash from the corner too, to relook at that a little differently.
Okay.
If that's something that's good enough.
I can work with Laura, if that's okay, just.
Yeah.
Good.
Add in relocation of trash, yep.
All right. Any other changes, comments, concerns for the minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve June 12th minutes as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain, I wasn't at the meeting.
You have to say more, Andrew, or was that,
What's that?
is that good enough, or you want me to say?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Just don't change up the minutes next time. in the meeting. We're a few minutes ahead of schedule. It's neither of those items took very long. If the proponent is amenable, I can have you come up and start.
Sure.
It's early. So, reopen the public hearing for
Sure.
EDR special permit 3522, 483 Summer Street.
Do you mind if I move that
Oh,
up,
please do.
Andy?
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Just ask you all to come up, reintroduce yourself, and very briefly bring us up to speed on where we are.
My name is Robert Anesi, and I represent Campobasso Properties. Richard Campobasso was in Florida last time. He's back in the audience. He's here this evening. This is Joe Renane. Joe Renane is one of the contractors from the Renane family. To briefly bring you up to date, we were here last time at the last hearing, and at that time we were asked to address a number of issues, and we've tried our best to do that. And some of the issues that we have tried to address would consist of the traffic pattern as far as the property is concerned, and the tandem parking. We have addressed that by virtue of coming up with a plan, which you have, to combine the parking for 489 Summer Street, which is owned by my client, Mr. Campobasso, and 483 Summer Street. We would have, and you'll see that when Joe Renane makes his presentation, you'll see an easement plan that shows how we're going to access and egress the property. There's going to be just one entrance, one exit, okay? And as the planning department report indicated, that's a good thing. That's going to alleviate traffic congestion on the street. It's going to alleviate any difficulty with traffic patterns on a very important street and busy street, Summer Street. So we think we've addressed that issue in a nice manner. The property at 489 Summer Street has 11 residential units, and they're all one-bedroom units. The property at 483 Summer Street has 7 units, okay, 6 residential units. Essentially, we're going to have one affordable housing unit as well, and 483 is going to have an office unit also. We satisfy the parking on that. We only need, and I think the planning department report corroborates this, 22 parking spaces. We have 26 parking spaces. We have more parking spaces than we need. So I think we've successfully addressed that issue. With respect to my friend Mr. Watson, he indicated last time that he would like to see us address issues with respect to bicycle parking. We've tried to do that, okay? And if you look at the plan, what you see is there are secured parking shown on the plan for up to 10 parking spaces for the residential tenants. There's also another area for parking which has a roof, but has no sides on it for, I think, 8 parking spaces as well. And that again could be for the residential, could be for the commercial as well, could be for guests too. And there's a further area for parking, 5 parking spaces up front shown on the plan, and that would be for the commercial tenants, which are going to be operating the 4 retail stores on the first level. As you may recall, there are 3 levels. There's 4 retail levels on the retail stores on the first level. There's residential on the second, and residential on the third. With respect to another issue that was raised by Mr. Lau, I believe we were asked to consider whether we thought we could shrink the building for the purpose of making it smaller, and with that eliminating one of the access entrance areas. We cannot do that. We've submitted a letter from our insurance company that indicates
that would jeopardize our ability to obtain insurance. And indeed, even beyond that, if you look at what's happened in London with one access and one entrance with respect to that tall building, that probably would be a further reason not to do that and not to, in fact, have just one entrance and one exit. We have two, as a matter of fact. With respect to the open space requirements and the like, I think we've complied with all of those. We've been down that path before. We did have an updated 21E environmental study done because there were questions raised last time by, and this is not part of the purview of the board, I know, but I indicated to the client I wanted to have one done, an update. We had one done. There's no indication that there's any contamination there that has to be dealt with. If you've read the summary, there's no significant issue with respect to the health of the inhabitants and certainly the neighbors as far as the property is concerned. So I think we're okay with that as well. When we begin to excavate for the foundation, if we come across any soil that needs to be dealt with, our intent is to deal with that by having the soil removed that very same day or that very same evening. We'll put it on a truck. And indeed, as we excavate it, again, there's no indication we're going to have problems, okay? But if we do, we'll have a vapor barrier as well that can deal with those issues. Now, one of the issues that was troublesome was the storm drain issues and the water runoff issues. Not troublesome, but we had some delay in terms of coming up with a plan. We have Paul Finocchio here, the surveyor, who's going to address that issue, and he will tell you that he has spoken with the town engineer, and he's addressed the issues raised by the town engineer in his report, and he'll address that with you now. We also talked with the tree warden with respect to the trees on the site. And Joe can talk to that issue, but the tree warden has indicated that in fact, we can deal with the tree issue. If we have to remove trees, we'll do whatever has to be done to pay for additional trees, additional plantings as far as trees are concerned, if we need to do that. I think those are the main issues that were covered last time that you asked us to address. And again, I think we've tried to do that. If you have any questions of me at this point, I'll be happy to address those. But I'm going to have Joe Renane make a presentation as well with respect to the HVAC units on the roof and how we're dealing with that, how we're dealing with the noise, potential noise issue as well, and things of that nature. Why don't you go ahead, Joe?
Sure.
Do you have any questions of me at this juncture?
Go ahead.
Can I have just one question? You mentioned the vapor barrier.
Yes.
Can you talk about where that would go and why?
No, we don't really think we need it, okay?
Mhm.
I'm just raising it. If the far out chance something occurred and we had to do that, okay, we'd use that if we had to.
How would
But
you-
there's no
how-
indication we
how-
have to.
How would it be used?
Joe?
If soil was encountered that was a problem, we wouldn't just leave it open to blow around. If it was dusty, there would be a vapor, like a plastic sheeting to, weight it down to prevent.
We
this.
addressed that issue because of the daycare operation, and that was raised at the last
Yeah,
meeting. Yeah.
I understand, I just wanted to
Sure.
know the
Okay.
context.
All right.
Thank you.
And there were some samples that had elevated readings.
But not reportable. Yeah. And again, the bottom line, no real issue with respect to the health of the inhabitants of the building or the neighbors as well.
When you said you had it retested, right?
Yeah.
Did you have it retested such that it was pre-characterized for the material that was going off-site? I'm assuming the site is a positive site
Yes,
where you have to have export. So you have tested the parts that need to be exported,
we have,
and that is below reportable, so that doesn't need to go to a
Exactly.
live landfill,
exactly,
as you understand it right now.
yes, yeah. Joe?
Do you mind if I set up, or
Go ahead.
is it okay? So I'll be speaking, Paul will be speaking about the site plan and the drainage plan. So the ground floor bicycle parking,
Just show us, Joe, where these are going to occur on the plan, the parking and the like, and depict the easement, show the easement on the plan as well.
okay.
Thank you. Give me a hand.
So the the bicycle parking will be here, and that will be a secured room, accessible with bypass doors that you can open and then put the bikes in and then secure them on a rack system.
Are those outer doors locked?
Yes, they'll be padlocked, and the residents, the residential residents will have keys to those. Then the roof extends over here, and this is another bike rack that people will be able to put bikes on the rack and lock and secure their bikes there. And then there'll be a pad in the front, and there'll be a bike rack there to also put bikes there. And we were figuring this one would be for like someone who would be there for the whole day, and this would be more convenient to people that are going in quick and heading out quick. That took care of outdoor bike parking. The dumpster and the way the waste is being handled, that's the residential waste is being handled. The residential waste is being handled in a dumpster recycling bin corral over on 489, and it will look like this. And it has, it will have a sliding gate so that it operates well in the winter time, so you're not trying to pull it across the snow and breaking the gate and everything. And it will have 2 4-yard dumpsters. One will be for the 489 property and one will be for the 483 property. And then each residential property has 3 recycling bins. And they'll be able to access the recycling bins by going down around the side through this gate so that they won't have to open this up. Then they can go and throw their waste in the dumpsters. You can put their waste in the recycling bins. And then when it's being emptied, it can be opened, the bins can come out this way, and the roll-out dumpsters can come out that way as well. The store waste, each unit will receive 2 bins that will be kept inside this area right here next to the bicycle area.
How are those gonna get emptied?
Which ones?
The recycling bins on
I'm
the...
gonna, not to be rude, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're gonna allow for public comment after. In fact,
sure.
there's a specific
Okay.
about it.
Thanks.
So hold your questions until they're done.
We've provided a landscape plan separate from the site plan as we originally provided it. And we're doing plantings in the front of the building here. There'll be sorry,
Tight, Joe.
I know I'm not small. So there's the walkway across the front of the building that accesses the doors to the stores. And we'll be doing plantings in here, and that will be mulched. This side area will be grassed. This will be a paved patio area. This area here will be grass. And then also while we're working on the site, we're gonna be adding and updating the plantings on the 489 property. If you flip to 16.
In your booklet?
Oh, I'm sorry, in this book?
Yeah.
We don't have 16.
We do.
I have 15.
Yeah, there are a couple.
Oh, sorry, Henry, oh, never mind, you do. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there we go. Got it.
Thank you.
We did the, we provided a spec for a typical compressor unit. The decibels are 50, 51. And then the roof itself. The roof, the walls of the building extend up past the roof surface, so the compressors are lower than the top of the parapet, and that will help disguise them and help with the units. Did you have any questions?
Should we go around again?
We can go around the table.
Oh, sure, is that it? Okay, so, a couple questions for you. I want to ask you, I want to ask you about the site plan. The orientation of the building tipped back from the parallel to the street, I think makes an uncomfortable relationship to the street and probably actually decreases the amount of clean or continuous landscape. I want to ask you about that. And I took the liberty of diagramming it, if that's okay. My question is, could you take your building and could you turn it like that so it's parallel to the street? When I did that, I was kind of surprised because it kind of fits with the line of the parking that you established. And it seems to actually possibly afford you with a little more room, but certainly a more continuous natural frontage that you would normally expect to have like you have in an adjacent building. To do it, you'd have to take your jog out and just make it a rectangle, but you don't lose any square footage. You just remove the deep jog here and make it a normal straight rectangle. Could be cheaper for you to build a building like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just go like this. Okay, now I've got a building of the same size.
Yeah.
And I take that building and I go like that. It still hits that parking edge, which I know is sensitive to get the depth.
Yeah.
And I think you might pick up a foot or two, but even that,
Yeah.
it just feels like it's sitting on the site, it's not elbowing into the corner of the site. The other thing about the site plan that I got to thinking about was, maybe you could take that retail waste area and put it over here in this area where you've got the other waste. Because what you've nicely established, I think, is a kind of a public area useful for the tenants. It's got bikes in it.
Sure, yeah.
But now you've got sandwiched in an area which is going to be accessible from the outside, walking through the public space and getting into there.
Would that be a problem?
Well, then the problem I see is that the building is now on the 489 property, that corner.
What's your...
We're right on the property. The way it's designed is we're directly right on the property line.
Right, see, but it's not changing your driveway condition. You might have to slip this a little bit to the right. The second thing is, what if you did move that stuff over there? Could you think about moving the trash over to here? So when you come to pick up the trash, you're in one place, out in the parking lot, beyond the public area of where the people are, using the public space. Keep the bikes over here because that's a public tenant function, maybe a little buffer zone to the windows that are looking out here. So that's a kind of a second suggestion. Is there a way that, and I know you guys have spent a lot more time on it than I have, but is there a way you could turn this thing so it feels more natural? I think it would make you feel like you have a little more room to the street. Actually, I think it might give you a little more room to the street, but I might only be talking about a couple feet.
What you got, Paul?
I mean, this changes the whole footprint around really, but,
Yeah.
Well, this side of the building doesn't change, so
No.
whatever units you have there, you just mirror them. And instead of having a jog like that and a jog, you just take this and... Now, I don't know, again, I'm just trying to address an issue of, it feels like it's fighting with the site. And I know that it was addressed in the meeting last time and also from the neighbors and members of the town. It feels a little tight. Maybe there's something to the street, it feels crushed against the sidewalk. So maybe this would be a way you could help it and see if it could actually fit a little bit more nicely on the site. And then secondly, to remove the trash from this side where it's public and people are gonna be using it, and get it over in the area basically of,
Do you see a problem with that?
it's basically what you want to do is almost keep it oriented to the same footprint,
yeah,
Yeah.
parallel. with
not the
that.
footprint,
But
but,
the same parallel, I'm saying.
well,
It's
not
parallel
exactly,
almost, pretty
because the
close.
street's kind of turning, so
Right,
just,
you're right, but I'm saying this is more parallel.
right,
Yeah,
parallel
existing
to the
zone.
street.
And you mind if I add one quick thing? Piggyback onto your comments there?
Is that doable?
It's okay, look at it, but come
Yeah.
up to the footprint of the building.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, we also mentioned to try to reduce the size of the building down a little bit.
Yeah.
And you mentioned one of the two things I suggested.
Yeah.
Well, one was deleting the stairs. I still think you can do that
Yeah.
because the state code allows you that if the
Sure.
building is split up, okay?
Yeah.
But it's your building, you can choose to do what you want, okay?
Sure.
That said, one of the other suggestions that we made at the last hearing was adjusting the handicap access to the front door. Right now, the front door and the stairs is cockeyed, it's skewed right now, right? And your handicap access is all the way over to one side of the site right now, right? That's because you're saying that's level.
Mhm.
If you were to push the building down another, say, 3 feet, I'm not, such that the front door now is level with the sidewalk or parallel with the sidewalk, okay, so that's your handicap access. All right, let me finish. I know you, okay, but now it brings the building down significantly, and now you have a much grander entrance to the front door there, because I find your entrance to this right now, with the stairs going up off-center to the entrance to where the entry of the building is, and all your railings you get around the front of the building, really not very friendly to the public. If you were to lower the building down, you would not need the railings there, because you can take care of the less of a transition of grade with just a planting bed. And that'll get rid of that kind of cagey look on the lower level there. Align the front entrance with handicap entrance with the front door. You push the building down a little bit, and you also, by doing that, you also get rid of some of those funky stairs you have in the back, and you get more space in retail. So it could be a win-win. And we sort of mentioned that last time, and I'm not sure how you guys want to address that. I think the front of the building doesn't seem really friendly right now. I agree with Andy here, saying there's something wrong with it. I really like Andy's suggestion of making more parallel with the sidewalk and that, but also I think if you push the building down a little bit, which you have the opportunity to do, it doesn't, you don't have to change much, just lower it.
Well, right now, that building corner on the left-hand side is almost at grade for the first floor.
That's okay.
But if I have to drop it 3 feet,
Yep.
plus or minus, that'd be 3 feet below the street grade at that corner.
That'd still be okay. You just bring up the foundation wall as a grade beam, and you'd be fine with that. And you have a planting bed there, so there's a little buffer zone.
You could have a wall in front.
Yeah, but there's a buffer there. It's just, yes, it's a little more work on the side, but the front of the building that faces the street, the public side, is so much more nicer.
Right, but I'll be 3 feet below grade in the back.
No, you won't.
If I'm dropping the first floor down 3 feet.
Don't use my word 3
No,
feet.
I'm just trying to, well, you're saying you
I'm
want to
saying
get
drop
it-
the building down, okay, to a point where the back and the front don't need any steps to go down. Right now, you're going down a couple of steps in the back to get out.
I was looking at that, and I think I see your point. The problem is you really have to step the building.
I have to, all right.
And
We
that-
really didn't wanna do that.
I know you didn't
We
want to.
really don't. I mean, it's really
That's
gonna
the way to
ruin the
solve
look.
the problem.
Yes, but see my point about the front there, just.
Yeah, but he's right too. If you push it down, you're gonna have a well in front of it, which is maybe just as
Which is not that, if there's enough of a
a
planting
little
bed there.
unfriendly to the street as well, when you got retail that you gotta go down.
Sure, but
I understand the dropping and trying to maybe get the stairs centered and so forth into the building, what it looks like for access into it. The problem is we have a 3 to 4 foot elevation change from left to right when we're dropping down. And the same thing in the back. If I keep dropping the first floor down, even a foot or two, I'm below the existing pavement grade to exit the site.
You'd have to put a fold or a step in the slab, just at the retail, which is something they don't like to do, because it's less flexible, but that would solve the problem.
yeah, or just drop it down that one, to where that grade is up in the back. And maybe have a couple steps up or something. There's gotta be a way of working it out where it's a little more comfortable. Right now, the way it's situated is just.
I can see caulking the building possibly, depending how things work out on it, because we'd have to pivot on the back corner,
Right.
that's on the lot line, and then spin it around.
I think you'll have more room to play see how this is now an equal
And then we
zone?
widen it. Make
And now
it,
now everything might seem to fall into place a
which will
little
push
bit.
the stairs over into the center.
Maybe. Yeah,
The reason the stairs are there is because of the elevation change from walking up the stairs.
Right.
Would be actually went out to the public way.
It's just very awkward right now, okay?
Mhm.
What if we just extended, what if we just made the stairs wider as much as we could without taking away too much of the landscaped area to make it more open?
you could. I'm more concerned about the overall plate of the building being parallel than I am personally about where the stairs are. And the idea of getting this trash over here, so people can really enjoy this whole area.
Well, they have the patio is a nice spot that they'll be able to enjoy, but they have the park across the street where the,
No, I know, I'm just saying, if you're looking at a site plan and you have a public area for a building, it'd sure be nice to get the retail trash out of there. Just put it over
You're
here.
also gonna be able to increase the value of the units that you're selling or renting. by
Exactly.
having outdoor access.
Think about it.
what?
What's wrong with that?
It means you have to take a parking place and shift this over. But I think you still have, the fact that this becomes more usable, and as Andrew said, you might have a little buffer with some trees, so these poor guys don't look out on nothing. I just think, it stands to reason that trash in a public area it's just be good to get it all in one place.
Okay.
And then you have the rain garden and all that, maybe people will start to feel like, wow, this is, the bikes will come in, they'll have plenty of room to have inside and outside bikes we're gonna hear about. Anyway, that's my site plan suggestion. I don't have a lot of time, but I wanna go through the other items. I think on your elevation, you ought to have a floor to floor at the second floor, the same as the upper and lower.
So don't make the third floor taller?
No, make the third floor taller.
Oh,
Make that second floor taller. You've got an 8-foot ceiling in there.
okay,
At least give it another foot.
okay.
And the ulterior motive of that is to increase your window heights a little bit. Increase your window heights and make them more interesting, and I guess I would say higher and wider.
They are 4'10".
They're 2'6" off though, so they're table height.
Mm-hmm.
But in a residential building, it just feels nice to have them down about 2 feet. And you can go up.
We thought about that for furniture layouts, because we are trying to get 2 bedrooms in there, so that the bedrooms are tight. And we're also trying to get 2 bathrooms per unit. So we're trying to give people the most amount of,
Flexibility.
to put furniture and whatnot. So
Try
we didn't
drop.
want to go too,
Try dropping the living rooms down. It just feels better we find in residential not to have it kind of that standard 2'6" sill. And the window feels a little higher. If you could do both, it'd be great. All your windows are the same double,
We tried to stay
4'10"
the same.
by 2'6" is your
Yep.
window? Okay. Out of the catalog,
It's a 36-inch.
36, okay, it's not a bad window.
Yeah.
If you look at that facade, I just think both inside and out, I'm not sure I love being in that room, you know? I wanna love it a little bit more. As a resident and also as someone looking at the building, the proportion of the windows is just a little bit mean looking, I think. They're a little tight, they're very standard windows packed in, just has a feeling of kind of formulaic.
Okay.
Maybe you take the living room windows and make them bigger, drop them down a little bit.
We liked that it was all
Standardized.
standardized and it didn't,
But
because I hate when I look at a building and it's not, I personally don't like different sized windows. I like when everything is kind of uniform and the same and straight and.
it looks standardized, you're right. But I don't think that's a benefit when necessarily. I think you could add a little more zing to this thing. And I think it's also an issue on the inside. If you're in that room, you're gonna just see straightforward windows of the same size, kind of, am I in the living room, am I in the bedroom? Kind of like, I wanna feel like I've arrived at a really nice room and it's your living room. Anyway, that's a suggestion. Maybe use some different window types, like use a side light window. That would give you a little bit more variation. Looks too standardized. It's a little anonymous looking.
I know where it's like one large window and then two small ones on the sides. Yeah,
Okay, all right, you don't like that.
no.
I think
In
it's,
fact, we just did an apartment complex over, where we replaced the windows and they had that, and we put 3 equal windows in to make it look better.
we'll come back to that. I think that it ties into a more distinctive design. I think it, and I look, this is the front facade, but the sides get a little even more. It kind of looks like an engineering building or a dormitory. It doesn't feel like a new residential building. But I showed it to a friend of mine, said, is this just renovation of the building? No, this is a brand new building. So you have the opportunity to do a little bit more, I think. And it's gonna help the sale of the building, it's gonna help the people that wanna buy it. I think there's a level of design, I'm focusing on the windows, because that's one very clear way to do it, that needs to be added into this, I'm recommending. One of the things that we like to see is materials at these presentations, so I think that's something you wanna bring back.
Sure, you have that.
Sure. So the brick, we would like to use that brick. The coins and the, I'll just hold it.
And the cornices, yeah.
Yep, is all gonna be precast, and it will be in the look of granite,
That's good.
which would be very nice.
That's nice.
And then this will all be copper.
Think about enhancing it a little bit, okay? And I know it's a problem, you've got an architect on the board who likes to fool around.
Well, that's okay.
But think about bigger windows, okay? Really think hard about that, because it's inside too, the person who's living in it. Think about maybe some special, not necessarily ornamentation, but sure. A jack arch, something at the top of the window, so it's not just a flat top, the same as the sill. Give it a little feel of height.
Okay.
Do something with that center window, which is a stair. Now, we have this stair, which is gonna be nice in the building. It's a hallway right through the building.
Yes.
And that should be light. So put some windows in that, make that a nice vertical window.
This was the spot that we were able to put a window in it because of where the platforms
Yeah, but you
ended
could
up.
slide under the other
Oh, yeah,
you can do it.
I know. But then they're not, it got away from having everything the same size.
You
which
don't
is-
wanna have
I know,
everything
it's
the
so
same
important to me though.
All right.
I know.
I must say, I didn't like that center stairway window.
It looks, everything's standardized, but it doesn't feel like it's comfortable. That's funny, like you standardize it, but it doesn't feel like it's
It's kind of institutional.
institutional, a little bit like, anyway, I'll get over this quickly, so. Maybe you could even, and I'm not sure you want to do this, you could even really emphasize that center bay, particularly if you just have a nice symmetrical plan like that. Let that center bay, maybe it has the coins on the side, the same ones that you use there.
Yeah, we had done, because our building steps, we had showed coins here.
Yep.
And it cut the building up way too much, so that's why we eliminated them.
I think it would help it. Or raise it up a little bit, maybe, just the cornice. And here's where you put the name of the builder and all that good stuff at the top. I'm just kidding a little bit, but a little more kind of comfortable adjustment to the building. It gives a little more design feel. It's very institutional looking. So the siding, windows, and the look of the building, you might put a belt course in there. So I know you're trying.
I'm just gonna say the same thing.
It looks
but
stripped
yeah.
down.
I was trying to give it this was one of our inspirations on it. It was just kind of.
That's an office building.
Right.
I know, but it has
Actually work.
it's clean and modern looking.
You can do it. I know where you're going. I respect that idea.
Yeah.
Keeping everything simple, but you still
Yeah.
have to have commodity, firmness, and delight. You have to have the delight in there. You don't have that yet. Make it a little more, and I'm gonna put it back around to the tenant and the selling it, because I know I'm getting on, loose earth here. It will sell better if you create a living room that's, oh, I'm going there. That's a really good room. And look at it, I can see it from the outside, that's my room. Right now, I don't know where I am. I could be in a bedroom, I could be in and actually, one of your living rooms is that window that's on the side of the stair. So you might, in the center bay, to the left and right of the stair. Yeah, that's a living room there.
Yeah.
Left side. That doesn't look like a living room, one little window there. So anyway, enough said. Those are my comments.
David?
So I can tell that you heard what I said at the last.
We did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We also want, because you were saying that we're also adding outlets at those spots for
Yeah.
the electric lights. I forgot to say that when I was talking.
Yeah.
It's in my
know, sorry
narrative.
to-
It's in my
Sorry.
narrative.
I did notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you took it to heart, and I appreciate that. And I think with respect to the bike parking, you've made a huge amount of progress. I have a couple questions and maybe one or two suggestions. First is, it's great that you found a way to provide enclosed bike parking for the residents. I'd be a little bit happier if it were actually inside the building. And just wanted to ask, did you think about that at all? About whether that was possible to take a little bit of space on the first floor to
We did look
to
at
provide
it.
that?
The retail spaces are small. The retail, it'd take a long time to find it. They're under 1,000 square feet per store, which is small, so we didn't want to take any more of that away and then not really have store space. And then we talked about it not working out down in the basement, so that was out. So
Yeah.
we figured this was the most convenient way. And,
I think we tried to compromise by giving really a lot of bicycle parking.
Sure.
Yeah. That would be the trade-off, yeah.
I think I'm a little bit concerned about the depth of that enclosed space not being sufficient. There are some really good bike parking guides available. Arlington,
I used the town one.
yeah.
Because the town said it was 2 foot by 6, so we made it 7 foot inside, so there'd be enough to pull in, and
Yeah.
the racks.
Oh, it looked like it was only 6 feet.
No, it's more.
Okay.
It's 7.
Yeah, if it's more than 6, it's
Yeah.
it's better. The racks themselves, though, these grid bike racks, we call them dish racks because they look like old-fashioned dish racks where you put the wet dishes side by side. Those don't work for modern bikes, not at all. So I would just delete those from your bike rack choices entirely. I know they're popular, there are a lot of them out there, but there aren't very many new ones being installed anymore because they just don't work. The reason is you can only lock the front wheel, and most modern bikes, it's really easy to take off the front wheel or the rear wheel. You have to be able to lock the frame to the rack. And there are lots of designs, of some of them very inexpensive, that allow you to do that. And so they provide support at 2 points for the bike so that it doesn't fall over, and it allows you to lock the frame and at least one of the wheels to the rack. I don't think the town's guidelines go into that
No,
detail.
not at all.
But I'd encourage you to, like, City of Cambridge has a great bike parking guide on their website that I know a lot of communities have just adopted, that talks about both the racks themselves, but also all of the sighting issues and the space requirements for all different kinds of configurations. So I think that resource would be helpful. There's also, I just have one from Darrow, one of the bike rack manufacturers, same kind of thing.
Okay.
Where it talks about both the racks themselves and the layout of the space. And I think you can do a little bit better with that, and I think make it much more useful, because I know for a fact if somebody buys a $3,000 electric bike, they're not going to be too happy if all they can lock is their front wheel and it's not there in the morning when they get there.
Yeah, but those people would be putting them inside the closed door with the lock.
Yeah, but they're still going to want to lock them individually. That's just how people are with their bikes. They're not just going to want to put them in there and leave them. I mean, the same thing goes for the other racks. I mean, I really like what you've done with, because you really responded to my comments for the 3 different types of bike parking that were needed. But I think if you just find a better rack design for all of them, I think that would really do the trick. I had a question about the overall design of the building, and I didn't have a chance to go back and look at the original proposal, but has anything significant changed stylistically?
With the addition of the bicycle waste storage area.
Yeah, but other than that, the facade is still pretty much what we saw before.
Correct.
We didn't hear a lot of these comments the first time around, that we're hearing now, so.
And we had spent
Yeah.
exactly, and we had spent a tremendous amount of time in getting it to this point and
Yeah.
making it look, symmetrical and exactly the way we wanted it.
I did notice, just moving on to the environmental assessment. I did notice that, as I thought I had seen, that there were 3 samples that did exceed the reportable concentration.
In a very isolated area on the lot, okay? And not a very large area on the lot as well, okay? And we're going to have that dealt with, okay? As we talked about earlier, in terms of trucking that away, the very evening we deal with it, okay? It's not going to be hanging around, dust is not going to get into the environment, okay? So we'll deal with it on that
So
basis.
are those areas that did have those 3 samples, are those, easily identifiable
They are.
and containable?
They are, absolutely, yeah.
Who's doing the monitoring for that? Do you have an LSP on site?
Oh, yes. We have a licensed fellow who's going to be doing all this work for us, okay, a licensed company, okay? They've identified where it is on the lot, okay? And it's in an area where I think it's open ground, it's not paved, okay? And it's a relatively small area as well on the
It
lot.
says here about 40 cubic yards.
Yeah,
But, so you have a licensed engineer there, and then you'll have a no ladies.
we will,
from the site where
absolutely,
you're
absolutely.
That would be part of your,
That would be a condition I would expect you would impose on us
that would
if
be the
you...
remediation plan that you'd be
Yeah.
submitting to DEP.
Exactly, yeah.
If I could just ask a follow-up on that, have
Sure.
they reported it to DEP now that they've found it?
Say again?
Have they reported it to DEP under the MCP?
I think they have an obligation to do that once they've done it, okay?
Right, so
Once
have
they've
they-
done the report, so...
No, have they?
Yeah, 30 days.
Yeah, have they
Yeah.
done it? It's like
Yeah.
this. They have.
I don't know that, okay?
You don't want to go too far down the road of environmental issues. 'cause
That really is
some
not.
people can-
Again, we're doing this because we volunteered to do it, okay? Because of the fact that issues were raised last time. It's really not something within the jurisdiction of the ARB, but again, we want to do the proper thing and the right thing.
So you chose to rework the parking configuration rather than seeking parking reduction and doing
Right.
the TDM plan.
But we're giving you the bicycles
I-
as well,
no, I-
okay? So we didn't take that away.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit disappointed that we're not looking at parking reduction,
Yeah.
but I appreciate the efforts on the bike parking, you know, because I actually think that will make the property even more attractive to potential tenants due to the proximity of the bike path and the town's efforts to improve bicycling conditions. So I do think that's an okay trade-off in
Good.
my mind.
Good.
That's it for the moment.
Gene? Ken, anything further?
Well, I want to say, I do commend you on the fact that you did address bicycle parking and the parking, and the fact that you addressed the water mitigation. I took a cursory review of that report. I think you guys did a nice job on trying to mitigate the water there. I still have a huge issue on siting the building. I just don't see how those retail spaces relate to the sidewalk, and I'm just gonna state I have issues with that. I don't think the way it's laid out, you guys have made no moves to address that, either.
We weren't asked to do that last
I
time.
thought we did, well, okay,
Yeah.
if it wasn't clear enough, I thought we did mention
Yeah.
about the railings, we did mention about the stairs.
Yeah.
And we did, mention about
Yeah.
having the ability to maybe lower the building somewhat,
Yep.
okay? I thought those points were mentioned at the last meeting. And if it wasn't clear enough, I'm hoping I'm getting it clear enough now, okay? That the stairs don't look right where it is right now with the entrance. It looks like someone just juggled it in there, okay? I know why it's there, why it's done, because of the number of steps requirements or whatever. And the railings and the height of the retaining wall just makes it very imposing. You gotta make it more friendlier to the street. And that's what I'm trying to make clear now. Hopefully, make that clear enough right now, okay? That's all I have to say. Then also, I commend Andy's comments.
Yeah, and I really urge you to take what everybody is saying, especially Ken and Andy, to heart, and when you go back to the drawing board. My major concern as I looked at this were the design issues and how this fits into, back up a little bit. You're putting a building, a mixed-use building on a major corridor in Arlington. But you're also putting a building, just a mixed-use building, to a neighborhood. Try to keep that in mind when you cite it, and that one of the things that we're here to encourage, and Arlington is trying to encourage, and the people of Arlington are trying to encourage, are things like bicycle use, walkability, accessibility, just the general friendliness of the streetscapes, and really take that into consideration when you look at this again. It really needs to fit with the street, the general feel, not like something you find as you head out Route 2 in Office Park. So, I'm going to open it up to the floor, to the public for questions. I would ask you to keep your comments extremely brief, please. Raise your hand. I'll call on you. State your name and address. We'll get through this quickly. Ma'am, you had a question. Finish. actually.
I did, and I had spoken last time.
Name and address,
with-
please.
Oh, sorry, Kit Hayes. And I live on Glenbrook Lane, which is behind your site. So one thing I want to say is that my main concern was the scale of the building in the neighborhood. It just seems so big for the neighborhood. And it's going to be, on the sides, it's going to be right against other buildings. So that seems to have improved some, but this question of lowering the building a little bit, I think would help also with the scale issue, because now it's gonna be up over anything else around it, or behind it, et cetera. So I wanted to say that. I'll maybe jump in again, but that's enough for now.
Others? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Lisa Mullins. I also live on Glenbrook Lane. I have a couple of questions that I guess we need to address to you folks. Will any of the cars that are parked there as they're exiting have to back out onto Summer Street?
No,
Not at all?
no.
Are any of the bicycles expected to take the place of a car?
No, there's surplus parking.
There's surplus parking?
Correct.
How does that work? How many do you have for the residential versus the retail?
There was a required amount of parking spaces for both buildings, and we have more parking spaces available than is necessary by
Is
the
that because
building
you're
code.
doubling up with the apartment building?
Some of the spaces on the 489 property are being used for the 483 property.
And what happens to those in 489?
I'm not following.
Someone
They have
sacrificing.
adequate parking, and 483 has adequate parking. So no one is losing parking for either of the buildings. As a matter of fact, we're gaining parking. We need 22 parking spaces, we're going to have 26.
And how did that happen?
Because we're combining both buildings, we own both buildings.
They
We're
had a
going to have-
surplus. They had a surplus on the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
489 Summer Street has never been at capacity with parking in 40-plus years of ownership.
And that's calculated on the parking requirements and
Right.
zoning bylaw.
Right. And for the residential and the retail in the building that you're proposing, you said 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. Presumably that would accommodate 2 adults. I mean, a kid might.
We can't be sure who's gonna.
No, right, but most kids don't have their own bathroom. So, how many parking spaces would be available for?
A 2-bedroom unit is 1.5 per unit, and a 1 bedroom is 1.15 per unit.
Parking available?
Correct.
That's the requirement in zoning.
Right.
Right, yeah, I'm just trying to think of the reality, just including the bikes, because I know on Glenbrook Lane, the majority of people have bicycles. We have equal access to the bus stop there. Nobody uses a bicycle instead of a car. So I'm trying to be reasonable because the traffic, and I really have to say, I appreciate all the concerns that you've all mentioned. Traffic is a huge concern there for lots of reasons. So anyway, and scale is a huge concern of mine as well. Just making it friendly to the neighborhood because we all live there. Thank you.
Thank you. In the back, sir.
Chris Carmody on 21 Peter Tufts Road. To build on that, I've looked at the plans. I saw that they've added parking to 489 for this property. Adding that parking, does that violate any of the open space that 489 is required to have?
No,
Because you're reducing the green space on 489.
no, it still meets the requirement.
It still meets the requirement. That's okay.
Yeah.
And then the second concern
Just
is.
to answer that, the building inspector has actually looked at that.
It's
and
embedded
approved
with the
it.
building inspector.
Okay, and then the second part was, I see on the property that you've sprayed out the corners of the building on there. And if you have not looked at the site, look at the site. It does not look like you have enough of a driveway behind the building with the parking space, with a 5-foot buffer. I mean, I don't know what the actual dimension is. But I stopped there today and there is actually trucks parked right against the fence. And from the end of the trucks to the spray painted marks on the ground, is 20 feet.
There's many spray painted marks there. There was a 21E done, and there are marks for where the individual test borings were done for those.
This is
and
for
then
the
they-
corners. You can tell exactly what
Oh, okay.
what the corner,
Yeah. Sure.
which corners are on the building. But I'm just concerned that, if the scale of the building is too large, that you're not gonna have enough of a driveway in the back. You will cram it in there like most other buildings in Arlington, with the redus, with a really skinny driveway, but I think for the neighborhood, the buildings are just a little larger size there, especially if we're talking about the back steps behind, I think there's 3 of them. That's going into the driveway, into the space, or whatever your step requirements are. You're reducing the width of that driveway. I imagine nobody's ever gonna park on that last spot because you have no turnaround room. You have to back all the way out into the 489 parking lot. Well, actually, all the cars have, or most of the cars, will have to back out into the 489 parking lot to turn around, to leave the property. So it's something that, I think the neighbors or residents should be concerned about, especially the residents of 489 also.
Thanks. Others?
I'm Sean Dugan, I live at 461 Summer Street. I'm concerned about the water runoff. I didn't hear anybody talking about they're gonna change on that.
Sorry.
'Cause it's all ledge there, they said they were gonna.
So we were submitted with a plan this evening. Nobody on this board has had a chance to look at it. My understanding is the town engineer has and has signed off on it.
Yes, maybe you can
I
explain
can
the
talk on it.
changes.
Yeah.
And for the record, my name's Jack Sullivan, I'm owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. And I had received a memo from the Arlington Engineering Department on June 21st requesting some changes from the original design that I had prepared, which was a rain garden feature, which I've been using a lot for various, it's a low impact design, it provides a landscape feature, it provides stormwater treatment. A lot of municipalities like to see them used. But based on the review by the engineering department, the rain garden would no longer work. And the reason is, this site drains in 3 directions. And even though we're only increasing the impervious area on this site by about 800 square feet, there were some agreements that we made with the engineering department to try to better manage the site. There's a drain point back here, there's a leach and catch basin in the back. And then there's a drainage point here in this corner, which is one of the lowest spots on the site. And then there's a drainage point here. So there's 3 distinct drainage points. What engineering asked us to do is up behind the trash and recycling area, they wanted to see a berm put in, a berm here, and run along here. And the reason is they wanted to direct flow this way and away from this leach and catch basin, since there's historical problems with drainage concerns with the abutters in that area. By doing that, I'm taking water that presently goes to this area and now pushing it on this area. So all of a sudden, my rain garden wasn't sized appropriately to manage peak rates of runoff and volume of runoff. So what we've done, and also engineering asked, by adding these parking spaces at 489, they asked if we'd be willing to put in some sort of dry well to capture some of the roof runoff from this building, which I did. So half of this building will be collected in a 1,000-gallon dry well, and we did provide the berm in this area. And what I'm doing over in this area, where previously the rain garden was shown, is I'm providing a catch basin at the low point where the pavement ends. It'll have a 4-foot deep sump with a gas hood, and then it'll go into an infiltration field, which are the arched Caltech chambers, the plastic chambers. And what I've done in sizing this, I previously with the rain garden, I had an overflow that would flow out and still move to the low point here. Now there's no overflow. I'm containing the entire 2, 10, and 100-year storm event in this infiltration unit. I'm collecting the entire roof area of the building. That'll be piped out here. And we're collecting the runoff that's moving from here over to here in this chamber. So everything's stored. There'll be 0 runoff to this point. So runoff, any runoff concerns have been eliminated. We've removed that. Okay. Additionally, with the drainage calculations that we did, by taking this roof area out of the calculation, the water that previously moved over into this leach and catch basin, the peak rate of runoff and volume of runoff going to that leach and catch basin has been reduced by 33%. It's a big reduction. So the abutter will have a dramatic improvement. If they previously have an issue, we've made it better. We haven't made it any worse. In fact, we made a 33% reduction. And then the volume runoff that presently goes out to the southerly side of Summer Street, we reduced that by 5%. So under the rules and regulations, you have to at least match your pre-development scenario. In all cases, we reduce 33% to the rear, 0 runoff here. So we went well and beyond what we needed to do, but the applicant was willing to do that. When we had a meeting with the engineering department, when they asked for these additional items, we said we were willing to do it. The whole idea with the berm, even though it created a bunch of problems for me trying to manage runoff in this area now, because I'm taking runoff that used to go here and now trying to deal with it, and I don't want to push it on someone else further downstream, but we dealt with it on site.
But what will that look like there in that back corner?
It'll be flat. So in this back area is the patio and recreation area. This will be a grass surface. It'll be level. This is all below ground. And the only structure we have is the deep sump catch basin with the gas hood. It provides total suspended solid, some removal of total suspended solids. And remember, we're also taking this entire roof area and putting it into that too. So I think we've made a real good improvement. It's going to cost the client some more money to put this system in place. And I like the rain garden, but in this case, you know, rain gardens are just small depressions in the ground, they're landscape, but I didn't get enough storage volume in that rain garden, so I had to go with a more conventional infiltration type system for this project.
And is it just from the Coltech, it's just going to infiltrate into the ground, you're not going to bleed it out?
Right, I won't bleed out, I won't have any sort of outlet structure from that infiltration system. I totally contain the 100-year storm event, which is a 6.4
And
inch storm.
what standard are you using to determine the storm event? The standard, are you using like TP40? What standard are you using?
I use HydroCAD 7.1, version 7.1. I think it's TR40. TP40 or TR40. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's one of those. And basically, I'm asked to model the 2, 10, and 100-year storm event. You know what your rainfall amounts are. The soil type for this area is a B soil. There are areas of fill on this site. We did do soil testing. And so we modeled this as a B soil for drainage. But as you can see, I mean, if we're only increasing the impervious area by 800 square feet, typically just the 1,000-gallon dry well alone would mitigate that. But in an effort to deal with volume issues and runoff onto abutting sites, I think we went well beyond what is required, and the engineering department felt we did a good job with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Elaine Crowder, 2 Glenbrook. I just wanted the board to be aware of something that I have observed on this site, which is not directly this site, but that during very high rainstorms, there has been runoff from the, what is the name of that street that goes up the hill across, up that village? It's directly across.
The condominium complex over
Bow
here?
Street? Is it Bow? Not Bow, no. Anybody know?
I don't, explain what you're talking about.
Right over here, the village up on the hill.
Oh, I don't know the name of that.
Anyway, there's a driveway that goes up for those condominiums across the street.
Rockaway
And
Lane.
What?
Rockaway Lane.
Rockaway Lane, that's it. And I've observed the water coming down that street, across Summer Street, into this driveway and into our back. So that does increase perhaps some of the water flow more than what would be right on site.
Okay.
Just to
Can you address
be
that?
aware of that.
No, the engineer.
So typically, in a street, there's a crown in the road, and there are drainage structures on the street. There's a catch basin catch basin.
It wasn't catching it.
Okay, so sometimes, I was a former town engineer in North Andover. I don't know the catch basin maintenance plan, I'm sure Arlington has a good one, but if they don't come out and maintain the sumps or clean debris on top of those grates so they don't function properly, that needs to be done. That's how they work. And there's a crown in the road, so it shouldn't be coming across the street. If it's coming down this gutter line of Summer Street, it should remain in that gutter and be captured by the catch basins. If it's not, you should call the DPW and see why not. I'm trying to handle the stormwater on my site, and
Right.
we shouldn't be dealing with stormwater coming from the street. If it does do that, then someone needs to, from the town, needs to look at those structures.
That's good, thank you.
Thank you.
You're saying this leaches into the ground, you got a 1,000-gallon tank? What is this?
Yeah, let me step over
Okay.
there.
All right, so I live at 461 Summer Street. I got a 10,000-gallon per hour pump. I've had that pump running during the heavy rainstorms for over 24 hours straight. So your 1,000-gallon tank is not gonna be big enough. What you need to do is run it into the sewer system, not into a leach field. This is all ledge, okay?
I can answer
So it's
that.
not gonna leach.
Go ahead.
So it sounds like you have a sump pump.
Oh, I have more than a sump pump.
Okay, so what we're dealing with is roof drainage.
Yeah.
We're not talking, I'm not taking any credit for a sump pump and discharging water. I'm dealing with surface
Right.
flow from
Surface
roof
flow.
areas, paved areas
Yeah.
on site. That's my drainage design.
Okay, but you're gonna drain it, you're gonna let it go into the ground. And it's all ledge underneath there, so it's really not gonna infiltrate, it's just gonna run downhill.
We did soil testing up in the area where the infiltration field's gonna go. We got down over 8 feet. We didn't hit refusal, it was basically machine limits. And this system right now there's about 2 feet of cover over the system. They're 18-inch high units with 18 inches of crushed stone beneath. I didn't hit refusal, so.
I think you should run it into the
And
street.
I wasn't into the groundwater. I need to maintain at least 2 feet above the groundwater table, and I'm above 2. I'm by DEP stormwater standards, and I'm above. And that was actually one thing in the good.
Yep.
When I looked to put an overflow to this structure, I thought of putting a structure in and then overflowing out into the town drainage system to connect into the pipe system in the street. I was gonna approach the town engineer about that, but where I was able to handle all my water on site, we did so. But there was a thought of me trying to connect out, but I wasn't sure how the town would look at that. I didn't know if this drainage system is under surcharge at some points, so I figured the best course was just to try to deal with it on our own site, not push it to the town.
That is the town's preference, when there's new development, especially to deal with the surface water on the site.
So that's what I tried to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We were, Lisa Mullins again on Glenbrook Lane, we were told at Glenbrook, in fact it was built into the development, that we have a turnaround that we have to have, I don't know if it's still law or not, we have to have for fire trucks. So they will be able to do a 3-point turn as they're exiting, so we keep that area clear. Is there a requirement for such an area in this development?
No.
Is there?
Not-
It's accessible from Summer Street.
Right.
It's, yeah, more than.
It's all been
Glenbrook Lane
vetted
is,
with
I
the building
think.
inspector, and that's not an issue.
It's not an issue to have?
Not an issue.
Okay, so what happens, I'm just curious about our own safety at Glenbrook. So one of our buildings, we have 4 buildings, one of them backs up.
I'm not familiar with how it's laid out at Glenbrook, okay?
Sure. Well, I can tell you, it's very close to
Yeah.
your property, one of our
Yeah.
buildings.
Right.
So let's
See it
say,
over there.
Yeah, no,
let's
no,
say.
I know where it is.
Yeah,
okay?
so if one of our buildings, you know, heaven forbid, caught fire and they had to have access through the back because
Yeah.
we have very tall buildings and
Yeah.
couldn't come in the front,
Yeah.
could we be guaranteed that the fire truck could have easy access to our building?
We have vetted ours with the building inspector. The fire trucks have adequate room to do their maneuvering.
Yeah,
Okay, we
that's-
do not have a problem.
That's a building inspector and fire department issue.
Yeah.
And so what happens with that? Have they already given the approval for it or what?
You'd have to ask them.
The building inspector will when we apply for our permit, the building inspector will sign off. It'll go through various departments at that point, the fire department, engineering again, other departments as well, Board of Health, okay? So all of that happens before the building inspector finally signs off.
Okay, well, I'm gonna register my interest in having a swift answer to that before we get to that point, because obviously it's a big concern.
Well, again, that's the reason we've talked with the building inspector about it.
Good, thank you.
Other questions? So,
I
yes,
just
sir.
want to say one thing. There is Arthur Ronine, my son, that's the one that's making the presentation. In regards to what you're asking, there is a stores are there, and there is parking behind, and there is access in there for the fire trucks to come into the back of those condos that you are referring to. I just want to bring that to your attention, that they can make apparatuses in, which is very important.
Sure.
And also, in the other spot, on the back of the property, the way this layout is, there is access from there to catch any of the back units. So I don't see it as an issue, but that fire department would know what they're up against, and they could certainly give
And
you
that'll all
an
be
answer.
dealt with.
Pardon?
That'll all be dealt with in the building inspector and fire department now. So I think we have one more round to go. When do you think you might be able to come back?
Just before we get to that point, so can we leave here with the idea that siting is maybe the major issue in terms of the building?
I think that's right.
Would that be a fair assessment?
Well, siting is one, but I think Andy brings up a very good point.
Design.
Design as well.
Character of the
Citing
pro-
and design, citing
Correct.
and design, yeah.
I think if those 2 points are met, I think,
And we cannot shrink the building for the reasons I set forth earlier, okay? We can't do that because of insurance considerations, okay?
you said that was your option.
Yep.
You certainly can, I'm not gonna push that, I just gave
Good.
that as an option there.
Just want to know what we're,
But I do say that, you know, if you can reduce the height of the building by pushing it down, I would encourage that. But it has to, but the main issue is the siting of the building and how the retail relates to the street.
Andy, did you have a problem with pushing it down? You made a comment about that earlier, and what I'd like to know is there a consensus here in terms of what we're going to be doing when we leave?
Yeah, I think so. Go ahead.
I don't wanna make a well. I'm worried about that, Ken. You know,
Yeah, I'm okay with that. You know, maybe one option is to stop the retail, if not, if the well's an issue, or there's other ways of creating.
Don't make it too low.
Yeah.
To the point where you're going into, you feel like you're going below grade. I think Ken is wanting to adjust it as best we possibly can to improve the street. You might think about plantings along there and how that works, so it's more inviting.
Okay.
I think if you straighten it out, you're giving yourself a little more room to create planters and that kind of.
I think we got that message.
And the
pretty
railings too,
clear,
and the railings up there.
Yeah.
That's just so, I just don't see that in front of retail. You don't put bars in front of retail, you know, you want it to open up.
One question. Richard Campobasso, 290 Mass
Quickly,
Ave.
please.
On this proposal to bring the building down, would there then be steps going into the retail?
That's up to your designers.
I'm not telling them exactly what to do.
Well, I'm trying to think of handicap accessible. I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons
That's-
why we have the topography.
We're gonna
that we
leave that
have
up to
make it
you and your
handicap
engineers to.
accessible. The minute you start doing that, you're not gonna be able to have it handicap accessible.
No, I think that's, not. I think just saying.
We're making suggestions as the board. That's up to you and your engineers to determine how it looks in the end. Bring it back to us.
The other thing that I would like to say is that it sounds like someone's saying your plans now are not, they really have to be all redesigned and reshuffled and everything else. Is that what I understand, Mr. West?
No, I don't think so. I think.
Well, you did propose, like, I did not see it, but it sounded like we were making a mall going in, like turning the stores the other way and.
No.
No. And let's not get into
Okay.
to that kind of argument.
No, it's not that.
Provide them
That's
with
not-
the-
We have to leave with
I'm
the
giving
right
this to
ideas
Laura.
here. You know, we have to leave with the right ideas, that's the
Yeah,
whole thing.
it's making the building,
Excuse me.
turning it so it's more comfortable on the site.
Right.
Potentially taking out a jog that exists and making it just a simple shape, then twisting it a little bit.
Okay, resetting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Andy, can
But
you
when we
provide
also do,
that?
see, we're quickly talking about that, when you talk here, you turn, and access to these bike,
It's still,
I mean, there's been a tremendous amount of thought put into it. Now,
I know.
I can take the architectural windows and start drawing on them and changing all kinds of windows and then use words, you know, words of difference. You know, inside these apartments, they're really made for furniture layout. Furniture layout is big time in there.
I think
Very
it's-
well
yeah.
considered.
Understood.
Yep.
sighting, more comfortable on the site, relationship to the street,
Okay.
get the trash out of the public use
Right.
area and put it over here. Do your best to think about how the design is better for the tenant and better for the neighborhood. It looks a
Right.
little too institutional.
Yeah, well, we can use words like institutional and everything else, which really puts a bad thing on it, like there's something wrong with it.
I agree.
And
That's terrible
I don't
to
think
say.
it's so. The thing is, we don't want to get into, we don't want to cause a lot of trouble. There's been a lot of effort put into this. The trash is also very,
Specific comments too.
Andy, is that something that?
That's just listing my comments.
right.
Yeah.
Can I
So
see
we
that?
have a copy of that?
Yep, I have to
Yeah.
give it to Laura and
I'll
then she gives it to you.
give I'll make a
Right.
copy and scan it and I'll
Get
send
it to me.
Bob.
Thank you.
But all the rubbish is like all contained and enclosed for the stores themselves.
No, I think
They
it's
put them out on their own. When the day comes, they pull them out and they put them to the area and then they put them back in and they're closed. So it's all, so a lot of this is not explained, but it's all been thought of, very, very much thought of. Your bikes, we went overboard on that, we really did. I think we can't, with the stores, you have to have a bathroom in there for handicapped and so forth. You have a lot of things on, you don't have the floor area to give up any of that. We've been encouraged to make, retail here, and retail is very acceptable. The stores down below all are right on the
Thank you.
wall, right on the street. We're back from the street. Now, you can say about the railings, you don't like that, well, someone might like it, someone don't like it. I mean, you can be, we can certainly.
I think we got the gist.
Yeah, I think we
I think we
understand.
have the
Thank you.
gist.
Okay,
Thank you.
We have the gist, yeah. Okay, what's your schedule?
When's the next meeting?
The next
quickly
meeting
can we
is,
do this?
17th.
July 17th.
Do we have to tell them today?
And then there's 2 meetings in August. No,
We-
you don't have to.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
you
they-
can work
it's
with,
gonna
you
take
can
a
work
while.
with towns.
All right, we'll get back to you on it,
Yeah.
Laura,
All right.
okay?
So
I've got the other one on July 17,
I'll take it.
on
Right.
87
Yeah,
Mass.
so I'll take a motion to continue this to a date to be determined by the department.
So moved.
No, you,
No, so moved is fine.
Date to
oh,
be
really?
determined.
Yeah.
Date
He's been going longer than any of the rest of us.
continued.
I'm using the shortcuts.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me the
Determined.
first time? I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. All right,
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you,
And I
thank
will
you.
give a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned?
All in favor? All right, second.
Second.
All in favor?